Hello everyone, my name is Alex Bisberg, and today I'll be presenting our work for the CSCW 2022 conference. The gift that keeps on giving, generosity is contagious in multiplayer online games. My co-first author is Jiang, along with the rest of the authors, Yilei Zeng, Emily Chen, and Emilio Ferrara. I'd first like to start out with asking, why do we care about virtual generosity? Bridging the physical and virtual worlds has become a more and more pressing topic in our society today, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic. People often form close personal relationships with others online. I can say this from personal experience and other research studies that show bonds can easily be formed online and even transcend the virtual world. In fact, we can increase positive human social actions by using generosity. Organic social interactions are fun and meaningful, especially when they're including generosity. In fact, virtual spaces are the place where more and more of these interactions are occurring. On the flip side, we can also combat toxicity using virtual generosity. In essence, giving gifts has actually been shown to build individual motivation and increase their social capital and trust. This leads us to some research questions. Does social contagion impact future engagement? How does receiving and or observing generosity impact a player's future generosity? And how does receiving and or observing generation impact a player's future engagement? We studied these phenomena in a game called SIGCHI, Children of Light. This game was developed by that game company with whom we have a partnership with access to data starting from the beginning of the game in July 2019. There is already existing work about social interaction in online play, however, not specifically this topic. Social play and player interactions are generally key to online gameplay. They increase player satisfaction and enhance online social capital. Existing research suggests some degree of social contagion is common. This means that social behaviors can spread quickly in game, from positive behaviors like generosity to toxicity, and even things like spending money. Certain influential players have actually been known to have an outsized impact on others' playtime, but less is known about how social contagion influences engagement in games in particular. And finally, works have shown that generosity is actually contagious in offline and online settings. People directly benefit from generosity and even from observing acts of generosity. No work has been done specifically to show its impact on the engagement in these games, which is what we show here. Specifically, we're observing a few different time frames, and this is key because we are trying to not only untangle if the relationships happen, but the causal direction of the relationships. We'll be talking about 3 time frames. T1, which was this week in October from the 5th to the 11th. T2, which is the subsequent week from the 12th to the 18th. And T3, which is 3 months later in January. We wanted to see if these effects persist throughout time and actually last in a player's interactions. Over all these time periods, we ended up with around 602,000 players after filtering for those that the game company has deemed as fake or bots or those who are just cheating the system. So then we answered the question, is generosity contagious in SIGCHI? It turns out there are actually significantly more candles offered and longer session duration if a player has received or even been another nearby player receiving a candle. In SIGCHI, Children of Light, candles and wax are essentially the in-game currency. Players navigate the levels of SIGCHI, which is a sort of an open world game where they can enter, and they'll interact with players who are observed as black and white silhouettes. You can't see any identifying information about them. These players are sort of spawned into the area, or you can actually play a game with a friend you've made either outside of SIGCHI or inside of SIGCHI. In this case, we showed that there are actually, by playing with friends, players will play more and be more generous. In addition, we also showed that generosity itself is contagious. So to read this table, if you look on the left, we can see that that column represents if the event occurred, and the check mark marks that this event did occur, and the X marks that this event did not occur. So essentially, if a player received a candle in their first session, their next session we measured the number of candles offered per day. If they did receive a candle, they actually gave significantly more candles per day than if they hadn't received one, about 28% more. In addition, they even, gave more candles per day when they had just observed someone receiving or offering a nearby candle. Not quite to the same magnitude, but they still gave more candles the next day, suggesting to us that generosity is indeed contagious. And finally, their session duration was actually longer when they received a candle in their first session. And then we tried to predict the future engagement based on these findings. So essentially, the duration of time spent on social activities with friends is actually the largest positive predictor of future engagements. We used a negative multivariate binomial model to predict the session duration at T2. In essence, sessions where players completed activities together that were oriented towards social growth, where you can essentially give people candles, you can actually increase your relationship level in Sky, was the highest positive predictor for increasing their engagement for future sessions, proving our research question 3. Now that we've shown that generosity is contagious, how do we isolate for this particular effect? Generosity and the likelihood to receive generosity could depend on many factors, like seniority, the sociability and play styles, and their availability. Therefore, we use propensity score matching to control for these co-founders. This is a quasi-experimental approach that uses a propensity score to determine if there's a conditional independence between a control and a treatment group, and then groups them into specific strata or matching cohorts to prove this hypothesis. And in fact, our propensity score results between T2 and T3 showed that they are much more likely, people who receive a candle are actually much more likely to engage and are more generous. In figure B here, you can see that on average, there were 63 more sessions played by people who received a candle, and there were 3.6 more candles given in the time in T3. So overall, we show that social play is a positive predictor of gaming engagement. Generosity via gift giving is contagious, and players who benefited from or observed generosity will tend to be more generous. These results have strong implications for social interactions in the virtual world, and in addition, we believe that parallels can be drawn between the real and virtual worlds given from previous work. Thank you all for listening. This is our contact information, and please feel free to reach out if you have any questions.